Hello everyone, Ben Lister here. How are you all doing today? Hope you're well. This is just an interview I did back in July with comedians Larry and Paul, episode 37 of the Chatbox podcast. So here it is.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Chatbox podcast. It's episode 37 of the Chatbox podcast. How are you doing today? Right, let's crack on. As you know, each week I have a guest to talk about their career, so let's crack on. This week's guest, yes, I have two guests today, as you can guess. It's broadcasting legends and comedians Larry and Paul. Hello guys, how are you?
All right, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, guys. That's good. 5 questions about your broadcast career, if that's okay with you.
That's absolutely fine, yeah.
So you ready to rumble in the jungle?
Oh yeah,
Are you?
always, yeah.
He's always ready to rumble in the jungle.
Okay, let's go for it. Question 1. Where did you start your broadcast career?
Separately, you were different to me.
Yeah.
So you go first.
Okay. Well, I worked in IT for a mobile phone company.
No, that's not your broadcasting career.
And then wasn't enjoying it.
Right. Sorry.
And so I asked to get some work experience at a radio station in Skipton called Fresh Radio.
Fresh.
Rest in peace. It's not around anymore. I think the last fully independent radio station in the country it was.
Was it?
Yeah. And it covered all of the Yorkshire Dales. And I worked under a chap called James Wilson in the newsroom. And that's where I began. And that was in about 2003.
And in 2007, I started working at a place called Radio Aire in Leeds, which lots of famous broadcasters have been through. And that's where I met Larry. While he was working on the news desk, I was in the office trying desperately to get on air. And I chatted, I kept on saying to the program controller, who was a lovely guy called Stuart Baldwin, I was like, please can I get on air? Please can I have a show? Please can I have a go on radio, please? And I got a couple of overnight shows. The first one of which I turned up at 2 a.m. Did I tell you the story?
I think you have.
I turned up at 2 a.m. to take over from the automated system, and Glenn Pinder had forgotten to turn it off. So it just carried on. So I was there ready to go, really nervous for my first radio show. And Glenn Pinder hadn't pressed the thing, so it didn't work. So I never got to broadcast.
No, blame Glenn.
And I'm blaming Glenn. And then I met Larry, and we got on famously and thought, should we go into a studio and mess around and see what we come up with? So that's how we first.
And we did our first show in January 2010.
January the 10th, 2010.
Yeah, our first FM radio show.
Yeah.
And what was the first song you played on that show?
Oh, that's a very good question.
God knows.
I have no idea. It was probably, what was on heavy rotation at the time?
Always Adele.
There was Adele 3 times an hour. There was The Wanted 3 times an hour. It was before One Direction, so it wasn't them. What's that? Moves Like Jagger. What year was that?
Oh, that was much later.
That was later.
One Republic, would they have been around? Orson, yeah. We played a lot of Orson. And I totally forgot, I neglected my hospital radio career, which came prior to Fresh Radio.
God.
But that was at Seacroft and Killingbeck Executive Broadcast Association.
Executive.
Radio Skiba. But the reason I remember that now is because I remember my first song there was Wuthering Heights by Kate Bush.
That's a good first song.
It is a great first song.
Yeah.
One of the first songs I'd love to have played on the live radio show, my podcast radio show. I think it will be in the future on my radio shows. One of the first songs I'm dying to play on a big live show is Easy Lover by Phil Collins and Phil Bailey.
Yeah.
Good.
That's a great
That's
song.
a good song.
Although slightly ruined if you're a fan of the Day to Day like us, because the Day to Day did a mixtape called Uzi Lover in the mid-90s, whenever it was. So now we can only think of that.
Uzi Lover.
Yeah. Nice. Question 2. Who were your inspirations in broadcasting growing up?
We both share Mark and Lard.
Yeah,
were huge inspirations to us on Radio 1. I've got the good fortune to work with one of my broadcasting hero legends, who's the guy called Matthew Bannister, who in 1990, was it 1990? He started GLR. So he took over BBC Radio London, turned it into GLR, Greater London Radio, and employed people like Chris Evans and Danny Baker and my ultimate radio hero, Chris Morris. And then Matthew Bannister went to Radio 1 and cleared out a load of old, not half mate, charity mate, old school broadcasters like Simon Bates and Mike Reed. Got rid of all them.
They're all back on Greatest Hits Radio.
Back on Greatest Hits Radio. And he brought in Chris Morris and let's say Chris Evans and Joe Wiley and Steve Lamack. So lots of cool people. So yeah, I get to, and I do a podcast with him now called Folk on Foot. Well, I do some videos for him. He does the podcast. So he's a legend. Matthew Bannister, Mark and Larder legends for me. Terry Wogan, Chris Morris, and Joe Wiley.
Yeah, I was Joe Wiley when I was younger. Definitely Joe Wiley, and I mean Annie Mac sort of later for the music. But I listened to a lot of local radio when I was young, and there's a station in Bradford called Pulse One. Now it's called Pulse One. It used to be called the Pulse, and they had a late night show on, and I never remember the guy's name. I think his surname was Butler, but I don't think it's Phil Butler, who's on the BBC local network now.
Okay.
And he was a shock jock basically, and after 10 o'clock at night, he would have people calling him up, and they would just talk about whatever. It wouldn't matter, but he was so incredibly rude to them.
Really?
So as kids, we would sort of hide under the duvet, and we'd have. My brother had an old transistor radio. How old am I?
Old transistor radio.
And we would.
And I've also had a guest on the from the Pulse of West Yorkshire called Adam Smith.
Oh right, okay. Oh yeah, the man behind Modern Finance. I remember him.
Yeah, because Hesty used to host the chat, because the chat used to be networked on Galaxy and the Pulse of West Yorkshire and loads of different stations.
Yeah.
Well, some of the local jocks. I mean, Simon Logan was, well, when I was younger, listening to Radio Aire in Leeds. Simon Logan was like huge. It was just before that period that local stations like Aire started to
decline,
to founder a bit, and before they then became parts of bigger groups quite often. But Logie was big news around it. Like everybody was. I don't know what the listening figures were, but people talked about it at school and at workplaces and stuff. So there's some of my heroes.
And also now you get Simon Mayo, or as I call him, Simon Mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise, absolutely, yeah. He used to be on Radio 1, didn't he?
Simon Low Fat Mayo, because he keeps himself in good shape.
He does keep himself reduced fat mayo, yeah.
Yeah, because he's now on Greatest Hits.
He is, yeah.
He's their latest acquisition.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
he's good. I mean, him and Mark Kermode speak in movies. I could listen to that for hours and hours on end.
Yeah.
And there's also a Mark Goodyear as well on Greatest Hits.
Yeah. Got quite a lot of big names.
Also ruined by Uzi Lover, the song from The Day Today, because Mark Goodyear featured in that as well.
Yeah, and Tony Blackburn appeared in a Phil Collins song, Two Hearts.
Did he?
Yeah.
There you go.
Because it was on Top of the Pops.
Right.
And Tony Blackburn introduced Phil Collins.
That makes sense now, yeah.
Yeah, and it's brilliant because I want to interview Tony Blackburn one day. Have you ever met him, you two?
No, we came close to meeting him once, but we tried to do a sketch for the Radio Academy Awards a couple of years ago, and we were going to get him involved, but due to scheduling difficulties / he didn't want to do it, we never got to meet him.
Yeah, we'll never know.
He's good friends with your radio dad, Mr. Kelner.
Martin Kelner, yes.
Yeah.
He's a broadcasting legend.
He is.
He's an inspiration.
Or as Dan Morfitt calls him, the radio god.
He is a radio god, yeah. I think he was just before when I started listening to the radio. I came to it quite late.
Right.
So even though he was in Leeds, Kelner was in Leeds, and people like James Whale, that I came to radio late, so I sort of missed them.
Right.
Which is a shame, but caught up with them later on.
Yeah. Question 3: what is your favourite part about the job?
What was our favourite part about the job?
Yeah, because we're not employed by the radio anymore. My favourite part was creating a silly club, and then when you'd get a listener call in or text in who was part of it, that's what I used to like.
Yeah, my favourite part was, and it's totally unprofessional this, but it's when we corpsed on air.
Yeah.
When something natural happened and we couldn't stop ourselves from laughing.
Well, on radio, it was really tough because we used to be on Radio Air Sunday Breakfast like years ago, and there is when you corpse, which is when you laugh uncontrollably, where all you're hearing on the radio, if you're listening to the radio, all you can hear is because the host is laughing so much. There was something about Sunday mornings that we were so tired and we'd make ourselves laugh so much that the amount of times we just had to just play a song because we couldn't continue talking because we were laughing so much, which we got told off a lot about.
Yeah, I love that though.
We got told off a lot for doing that.
Did you ever laugh? Sorry. Did you ever laugh with Martin Kellner? Did he ever make you laugh in the studio before, where you couldn't stop laughing uncontrollably, or he couldn't?
He's a radio professional, so I'm not sure he would ever do that.
I don't think he would corpse, but God, he would make me laugh.
Yeah,
because he's so witty,
very quick.
As I was saying to you before we came on air for this, if I was ever in the studio with Martin, I would just feel the fear that I was going to miss one of his jokes because they came so rapidly, and my mind couldn't keep up with his. So, but yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah, he's a legend,
He is. He is.
One of my broadcasting heroes as well.
Yeah.
He's lovely.
Yep. Question 4: did we do question 3?
Yes.
How has COVID affected your life and line of work?
It's ended. It ended our line of work. We were broadcasting on BBC Radio Leeds every Saturday between 12 and 2. And then COVID happened and we were let go.
Yeah, so that was that. But it's been fine because we'd been working on our comedy career in the meantime and trying to build that up. And so we basically tried to go full-time comedians.
Yeah.
Which we're still trying to do at the moment, writing and performing sketches and producing stuff and doing other bits of work to pay the mortgage. So,
it would be nice to go back to do radio at some point.
Yeah, but it'd have to be right. We always felt, well, it's always felt in our radio career that we were never quite what a program controller was looking for.
No, and we were wrong. We were wrong for Radio Air, and we were wrong for BBC Radio Leeds.
But we found it very hard to change dramatically to fit into those.
You wouldn't want to.
Those.
Like, do you remember we used to have in Radio Air? We used to have our it wasn't program controller. Yeah, program controller. Trying to coach us to do different, like, you need to be more like this, you need to be more like this, and it felt artificial.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
I remember us getting in trouble for doing a 12-minute link and being told that our link should be more in the region of 12 seconds.
Yeah,
which has provided much amusement.
We talked far too much.
Yeah,
definitely.
Have you ever crashed a vehicle before?
Oh, all the time. But there is nothing better than that sweet moment where you hit it straight away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, come up now while we're doing it. It's like, yeah.
But hitting the vocal in a naturalistic way has got to be the key. Because, like, if you listen, there's some. In fact, I was listening to one last night, but I'm not going to name this particular person, where you know that they are just artificially stretching out either a story or a paragraph or something, just to get to the vocal, and then that's what I did. And I guess. I'll just have to tell you more later. And then we're into the vocal. And it's like, oh no. So.
Natural vocal hitting is like back timing. Back timing to the top of the hour perfectly. Oh, I love that. I love the maths of that.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Have Have you ever overrun into the news before?
Always. I know you not so much, but whenever I had to do solo
Yeah.
stuff, I always did. I was always apologising to the travel person and to the news person constantly.
Because you were late.
Always late. Always late.
The only time I did it is if I was doing a solo show, like a more news-based show.
Yeah.
I would always feel incredibly uncomfortable about cutting somebody short when they were making a point. And if you listen to the pros, like to one of our radio gods, Andrew Edwards, who's on Radio Leeds,
Yeah.
he is such a brilliant interviewer, but he can end an interview like that. He knows when someone's going to breathe, and he can say, and then he'll just sort of end it really politely, really nicely, and no one feels like they're being cut short. And it was a skill I never mastered.
And then hits the travel.
So
But
that would be the time I was late for the news.
I thought
There
people
was-
who. Oh, sorry.
There was also Liz Green as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
That now
yeah.
does network stuff on Sheffield, York, Leeds.
Yeah, they've networked a lot of BBC local radio shows now.
Yeah, weekends, isn't it? Andrew and Liz used to do a show together, didn't they?
Yeah.
Many moons ago. But
Yeah.
Andrew's still doing weekend breakfast, I think, Radio
Yeah.
Leeds. Yeah.
And
He's
there's
from-
also a guy who used to work on Radio Leeds, Howard Pressman, as well.
Howie, yeah, is he at Sheffield now? I never got to meet Howie.
No.
Yeah.
I knew the name, and I listened
Yeah.
to him in the morning. He used to do the early morning show, and if you all the early morning news readers, we'd have a little bit of banter about Howie's
Yeah.
games in the morning.
Yeah, and he was that he's now on BBC Radio Sheffield with another few good friends of mine who work there as well, called
Yeah.
because I know Becky Measures because she worked with Sean Goldsmith for a while.
Right.
If you know Sean Goldsmith.
Again, we know the name, and we've had interaction online. I'm
On
not sure
Twitter,
I'm not
yeah.
sure we've physically met Sean.
No, I think so.
Because
He seems a nice
worked,
guy.
he worked for Greatest Hits. And he left or he got axed by Bauer.
Right.
I'm not sure. I think he was doing the overnights on Greatest Hits for a while, and then I don't know what happened with Bauer. He just got told a month before that he was no longer, I'm not sure, required.
Right.
Oh, yeah, classic. Yeah,
Classic radio
classic
behaviour.
radio behaviour. Yeah,
Yeah.
always happens.
Did you get told you were not required, or did you have to go to the building and try and get in?
No, we just because of COVID, it just sort
Yeah.
of stopped.
Everybody had to go home because of COVID, and then they said that they weren't going to have two people in a studio anymore. So that was
Yeah,
us. And they also they drastically cut the number of shows they had, and made every show 4 hours long.
4 hours.
4
that's
hours
too
of
long.
speech radio.
4 hours is too long for a show.
Yeah,
Right.
and these current DJs, and then they moved hasty from mid-mornings to afternoons.
Yeah, they switch everything around.
I think 4 hours with music is manageable, but 4 hours of speech is,
Hell.
4 hours on commercial makes sense, but breakfast show 4 hours on
No.
BBC Local, I'd just be utterly exhausted. I don't know anybody does it.
No.
But maybe I'm
Um,
late.
COVID's accelerated it
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite possibly.
because people are now working from home.
Yeah.
And yeah, the government briefing yesterday, by the way, was put me to sleep.
Oh, that's good. I think
One
that's
of
his
my
job.
radio colleagues joked that one of my radio colleagues who works in the region joked that he's going to record the next news conference and he's going to listen to it when he goes to sleep.
That's a good plan.
It's a good plan. That will work well.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah, because who are you playing in your role as comedian then? You too.
What in the briefings I play a minister, an unnamed government minister who's a mixture, to be honest, of Matt Hancock and Dominic Raab.
And I play a series of different. I play my own ensemble
You do.
of.
You play a range of characters.
Yeah, I'm either a northern journalist or I'm Dan Wootton
Or you're a scientist.
or a scientist. Yeah, I'm quite often a scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you're
Dan-
Neil.
Andrew Neil.
Dan Wootton, he used to work at Talk Radio.
He did. He did.
And now he's joined GBBs, hasn't he?
It's got in GBBs. Yeah.
You mean the ill-fated GBBs?
The ill-fated, yeah, which is a half.
Is that what we have to call it?
The ill-fated JB has lost half his viewership or something.
I don't know. I feel conflicted about GB News because
And I think the lead presenters, the man behind it, the chairman's off, taking a few weeks off.
Yeah. Andrew Neil.
I don't know what happened there, but there's some lovely.
Lovely people.
Simon McCoy is a lovely, lovely man.
Yeah.
Alistair Stewart.
He's there
as well.
So yeah, and our friend Kevin works there, and he's a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
So there's some good people. There's some good people there. Obviously, it was always going to be have the mick taken out of it mercilessly, though, wasn't it?
James Whale doesn't think it'll survive in this cutthroat time.
I think he might be right.
That's not because it's got some good quiet content, but it hasn't really got. It's only got like 3 minutes or 5 minutes of good content, and the rest is not very good content.
Right.
And last question on my list.
Okay.
Question 5. What advice would you give to young aspiring broadcasters who are starting out?
I used to say, be prepared to go somewhere and work for free, but I've changed my tune on that.
You should change your tune on
because
that now.
that's what I did. But times have changed, and quite rightly. I would say learn from as many different people doing as many different jobs as you can.
That's good.
Because as the old adage goes, you're a better presenter if you've been a producer, and vice versa. You're a better manager of presenters if you've ever been a presenter in your life, for example. So it's learning all those different bits, writing scripts. Don't always just read them. Write live reads, because then you'll know how to improve them when you're a presenter.
Mine would be always be yourself.
Oh, that's nice and esoteric.
It's true though, because don't let someone go, oh yeah, I think you sound all right, but you should probably be a bit more like this person or that person.
Yeah.
Because that way madness lies, and you should just be yourself.
And if you're yourself, then you can have a career as successful as ours.
Yeah. But no, that's what, and also, Terry Wogan famously was himself, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's why people liked him so much.
And the talk to one person thing.
Yeah. Talk to one person. Don't say, hello, all of you out there, or you guys. Never say that. And talk to one person.
Greg James' advice is really good, which is treat the stars like normal people, and treat normal people like they're the stars.
Yeah.
I remember him saying that. I don't know if he came up with it, but it was very good.
Sorry. Greg James also said he'd never do the one show because he'd end up partridging it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We always
everyone partridges.
We tried to slip in so much partridge into our shows. Quotes if we could.
Yeah.
I'd love would you love Alan Partridge if ever you could in future, if ever you were back on the radio? Would you love to have him in the studio with you?
100%. Yeah, it would be like a life's dream.
Get Kelner and
Partridge. Imagine that, Kelner and Partridge in the studio.
Kelner doing an hour with Partridge. I'd do that.
Yes, Kelner interviewing Partridge.
Yeah.
Someone commission that.
We'll do it.
Kelner on Partridge.
You two just be the producers.
I wouldn't say a thing. I'd just sit back and listen.
I'd be delighted.
Yeah.
And because it's funny that and also I forgot to say about Terry Wogan, he saved Dallas.
He did save Dallas, yeah.
From getting the axe.
Get the axe, yeah. Powerful man.
Yeah.
Powerful trousers.
Powerful trousers.
That's it for today. Thank you very much for joining us, Larry and Paul.
Thank you for having us, Ben.
Do join me again soon for another Chatbox podcast, but for now, please give it up for the legendary Larry and Paul. Do join me again soon. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and that's a wrap.
My interview with Larry and Paul. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it filled a gap in your time. Hope it filled a gap where you live, and I hope you're happy. So yeah, that was episode 37 of the Chatbox podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it filled some gaps in your time. So yeah, hopefully hear from you soon. My next upload will be with Jeff Dorset and a couple of audio intros and outros. So stick around for that, and talk to you soon. BL out, and that's a wrap.